Okay, good. We are live, it appears. Welcome. Let's see if we have some kind of connection. I haven't done this in a while. It's the first webinar that I'm doing in probably about 2 years. So let's see if we have connection and that I know that I actually have an audience here. So there should be a chat for you in the right. Let's see. I hope that is working. Great. Okay, it is working. Super. Thank you for letting me know that you're there. Hi, Logan. Hi, Robert, Pete, Christian. Excellent. Thank you guys for coming. Hi, George. Toyn, Dan, Daniel. Good. So this is a fun medium. It's a strange medium for me. It's like very one way. It's like standing on stage in front of a dark room and not really knowing how things land for you. So I do appreciate you actually having some kind of engagement with me in the chat. Today is primarily going to be me speaking about some things that have been bubbling up inside of me for the last couple of years when I haven't been doing things like this. And so I may not have an opportunity to do a lot of Q&A with you guys, but it's always nice to feel that there's engagement. So you're very welcome to add any comments, questions in the chat. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to ensure that all of these slides are getting uploaded. And this is fun. This is fun, guys. It is like I'm returning to something that I did back in the days a lot, and that is connected to a past life that I'm going to be talking quite a bit about today. You probably know me mainly as the masculine archetypes guy, the reclaim inner throne guy, and I've been that guy for a good 10 years, really. And I've had a lot of questions why I'm changing my focus. A lot of today is going to be about that. Because obviously, when you've spent thousands of hours dedicated yourself to something, let's say that you spent thousands of hours doing martial arts or playing the piano, whatever, and all of a sudden you stop or you move on to something else. There has to be some big change internally. And that is probably something that a lot of us have been experiencing over the last couple of years, a lot of change. I know I have, I know very close friends have, I would imagine you have as well. So in the chat, if you haven't already chimed in, just let me know where you are, why you're here, and how you're feeling. And I'm going to open these slides. So I've decided to name this a webinar from masculine archetypes to the 5D man. The 5D man is my new body of work. It is related to the masculine archetypes, but they are not exactly the masculine archetypes. So before I move on, I encourage you to get the most out of this hour, roughly an hour that we have together, to do what you can to be able to stay concentrated, focused. I know that that is a challenge in this day and age. Notifications will have a tendency to pull you away from your concentration. So I encourage you to give yourself that gift, to give me that gift, and to just have an opportunity to dive in for this hour today. So I'm going to do a bit of a retrospective to give you a little bit of an idea for why I started with masculine archetypes. I was a sensitive child. I was very curious. I was taken by fairy tales, myth. I loved computer role-playing games. You can see these Norwegian folk tales on the left there. Probably around 5, 6, 7 years old. I was born in 1978. Then I moved on to computer role-playing games. You can see one of my favorite games there. If you were a computer, just raise your hand in the chat if you were ever into computer role-playing games yourself. And I would always, with Dungeons and Dragons, whatever kind of games we were talking about, would always be the wizard. With a very rare exception, I would be some kind of warrior class. But I've since realized that the kind of classes that you choose in role playing, if you were that kind of a nerd when you were little, actually says a lot about who you are. So I moved on to, obviously, like most of us, Lord of the Rings. I didn't start reading that until, I believe it was high school, around 94. Then the movies come, obviously. So there's this gradual progression until in 2009, I discovered the King, Warrior, Magician, Lover archetypes. As you may imagine, it's a feeling of homecoming. It is a feeling of this man, Robert Moore. He understands me. Not only does he understand me, but he understands human culture. He understands human potential. He understands why we have been going to war with each other, why evil exists. Together with his colleague Douglas Gillette, I felt like they had authored a manifesto about life and about the deep psyche of the man that I could really subscribe to and make it my own. If you feel similarly when you read that book, let me know. Give me a hell yeah in the chat, because a lot of us have had a similar experience. Warhammer, Baldur's Gate. Yeah, we see here, Father Mike, too old for computer games. I played D&D in college with graph paper, and that's awesome. Yeah, Logan, I remember the Ultimate series, right? So we know this. It's a part of the rich imagination that a lot of us men have when we're young. Hell yeah, yes. I think there's a little bit of a lag so that I don't see your comments immediately, but I'm glad you have a similar experience having read that book. About 2009, I start masculinetomovies.com. I realized in a very intense moment of insight, I have a movie night with my girlfriend at the time. I watch 2 movies, Mrs. Doubtfire and Erin Brockovich. You wouldn't imagine that you would get insights about masculinity from those movies, but I actually did. And from that experience, I realized, oh boy, here I have these archetypes. I seem to understand movies. I seem to be able to weave these two together and to actually extract wisdom from it. And so for many years, I would delve deep into movies and realize that, of course, movies are a treasure trove for human psychology, insights, evolutionary narratives. The hero's journey is obviously the most central storytelling trope or narrative in Hollywood, in any storytelling, really. So I delved into that, somehow seemed to gain traction out there. I realized that I had found something. And I realized that not only could I write about it, I felt a responsibility to create some kind of a training, some kind of a way for other men who were writing me many, well, if not every day, then almost every day, saying me how much this had meant to them. And I felt like I needed to give them something more than just inspiring movie reviews. Yeah, you met me through my work with Masculine to Movies, George. Many did. So then, the result is Reclaim Me in a Throne. Many of you, I have friends here today. I have former and present clients. Many of you have experienced Reclaim Me in a Throne. You know it's a deep mythological narrative. You know it takes inspiration from Lord of the Rings. And if you see this map right now, that part of you which got lit up when you were a little boy and heard fairy tales, you played role-playing games, that part of you looks at that and gets excited. Isn't it true? Tell me that that's true. Give me another hell yeah. That part of me, that young part of me, that young part of you gets excited because there's a journey, there's mystery, there's transformation. You can tell there is some level of potential embedded into going on a journey of transformation. It became an all-consuming thing for me for a long time. 7 years for me, 8 years for the training. 8 years. So I believe Ruben led the last Reclaim Unit Throne in 2022. 2021 is for me. So I'd love for those of you who have been through this training, give me a sense of what it gave you in the chat. It's a great training. It's a great training. It was. Middle of this, 2016, the world of men's work, the world of Jungian psychology, a lot of people are shocked by the news that Dr. Robert Moore, the author, at least one of the authors, but the main guy behind the King, Warrior, Magician, Lover system of archetypes, he died. Not only died, the story would have it that he shot his wife and then shot himself. This was a difficult thing, a difficult occurrence in the life of a lot of men who had dedicated themselves to deepening into his legacy. Robin Moore was a genius. He, in my perception, even though I have not read all of the Jungian analysts or authors, in my perception, at least for me, he was the most important figure after Jung. And my entryway into Jungian thinking was Dr. Robert Moore. And then he was dead. And apparently he had killed his wife and shot himself. And nothing made sense all of a sudden. It was very strange. Together with my colleague at the time, Carl Otto Sandvik, he was working for me, was one of the assistant course leaders. We did a video called that The Statement on the Death of Dr. Robert Moore. You can find that on the Inner Throne website today. And turns out that for some strange reason, not very many other men in the world of men's work actually spoke out. I would say I'm disappointed about that. Like if you have been dedicating your life to studying this man's work and then there's something that happens that dramatically undermines his legacy, why don't you speak out? I thought it's strange. And so because very few people spoke out, we ended up on the top of Google for this particular tragedy. In that way, his niece, Marina Weems, discovered me and the work. And you can see here in 2016, she writes, "I am the niece of Robert L. Moore, Uncle Bob. I just saw your comments. You can contact me if you like. I would be more than happy to give you the details of his passing, especially since the forensics report contradicts what the newspaper and social media wrote." Okay. Obviously, she had information and I didn't know what to do with it at the time. I felt like I was having my hand on the lid of Pandora's box and I didn't want to open it. And so I waited for a while. So in the meantime, other things happened. we hosted the Kings of the North retreat in the Norwegian mountains in 2019. That became a centerpiece in a Norwegian documentary about men in Norway, and it was shown to 500,000 Norwegians. Interestingly, even though the host of the show was flabbergasted at how much she ended up liking what we did, so we got the most flattering feedback you can imagine in primetime television hour in Norway to 500,000 people. 2 men contacted me. 1 man pulled back because if he was going to enter into the work, his wife would no longer let him ride his motorbike. That was the state. That was the state of Norway at the time. We got 1 man who entered into it. But more importantly, for the context of this conversation, with Paul Christian Bunds and Karl Otto Sandvik, you can see us sitting on the rock in the photo there. We came up with a map of 3 keys that we were going to work with during that week. We didn't want to specifically name the archetypes. Instead, we wanted to work with archetypal qualities. It became clarity for the magician, courage for the warrior, and connection for the lover. We call that the 3 Viking keys. And for a week, we were really working in the most fun way. A lot of men who were at that retreat said it was the most fun and transformational retreat that they had ever experienced. It was epic. It was truly epic. 2020 comes around, and all of a sudden, it's COVID times. But yeah, I also produce Ultimate Intro to Masculine Archetypes. I spent God knows how long on this product. But actually, by the time that I was done with it, I already started to feel a bit of dissonance with delivering it. One of the experiences that I had with this was I was deepening into this material and sharing a lot of insights into depth psychology. But when I came to the part of my creative process of creating exercises, I found it challenging, and I found that interesting. Why can I create this incredible wisdom and share with men about the way that if they get possessed by the magician archetype, they can get lost in chronic liminality and live in some kind of trance-like existence and not actually find their 2 feet in the world. But I don't quite know how to actually translate that to a way for them to work. Something was starting to feel a bit odd about it. I'm not sure I'm making myself clear. This is a little bit I'm still trying to understand this myself. And then this comes around 2020. We were going to do the most epic Kings of the North retreat. Men were starting to sign up. I was so excited. And then this malarkey started playing out. We have pictures here of the police brutally assaulting people who were not pro the authoritarian mandates. We have Fauci, that for a part of the population was starting to be celebrated as a religious figure. I actually think that's real, that thing. I don't think it's parody. We had Stephen Colbert dance on television with syringes, with the weirdest propagandistic brainwash indoctrination garbage that I've seen in my whole frigging life. This is when things really started to turn for me. Because up until that point, I had only been researching the archetypes, but I was deeply immersed into the studies of archetypes and thus occult phenomena. But what I was seeing was that what we were facing at the time was no mere uh, public health campaign. The same skills that I had applied to helping the men on Reclaiming the Throne transform translated to what was happening in the world, revealed to me a darkness the kind of which I had never before experienced. It was a jarring experience, as I'm sure it was for many of you as well. Some of you may disagree with what I'm sharing and you believe that everything was for public safety. I don't care. I say that this was garbage. Dangerous, psychological, and spiritual warfare on humanity, the likes of what I have never seen before. 2022. I don't know if I'm braver, if I'm tired of bullshit, but it's time to speak to Marina about what happened. Forensics report indicates that it's impossible that Robert Moore shot his wife. Absolutely impossible. Gunpowder residue was on her hand and his temple, as far as I remember. But furthermore, the forensics report actually indicated a third party. The will had mysteriously disappeared from his office drawer. There was a lot of weird shit. Marina tells me that the police is not interested in the truth. They are police in Chicago. They have too much to do, and they don't care that the forensics report completely undermines the report filed by the detective on the case. So the police, with all of the evidence that they themselves produced, were not interested in changing their own official story. Not interested. What's that thing? Why do I have like a witch there? Well, in the same conversation, I hear from Marina that I didn't share that in the interview that is currently on YouTube because, again, I keep having this feeling that sometimes it's premature. I get really restless inside. I get anxious, maybe even fearful. And I'm not, maybe it's me that needs to change. Maybe it's the world that needs to change. But I just felt that if I were to share that with the world then, which she agreed to, she was very happy to get the story out there. It's now on Wikipedia. It's now, he's been redeemed. His name has been, what's it called? I think it's redeemed, isn't it? In the court of public opinion. So we succeeded in that. But I didn't want to share that Robert Moore was a fugitive in his own home. His wife was practicing some kind of witchcraft, some kind of dark arts. I don't remember Marina saying that exactly, but she was saying that Dr. Moore in his own home was setting up all kinds of wards. Obviously, he had studied the occult deeply, and he had an idea of what magic was, and he wanted to protect himself from something in his own home. I also learned that she, I don't know how frequently it was, but that his wife would sometimes grab a knife, run around the house, chasing him to the point where he would barricade himself into his office, afraid, I assume, for his life. Now, that's a hell of a story to hear about the last years in the life of your role model. I guess that is also in part why I have been waiting to share it. Clearly extremely dysfunctional. And there's a place in us men that I have known myself, and a lot of my friends know this, and maybe you know this too, that is attracted to mysterious, dark, and chaotic women. Because maybe because we want to experience something that's outside of our control. Maybe we want to experience the feminine that is part and parcel of that, the chaotic feminine. As there was a woman that was writing on my Facebook post when I was talking about this webinar that seems to be a danger for a lot of men in men's work, that they get attracted to this kind of a woman and then come to associate feminine with, what was it, cluster B personality disorders or something like that. It's like that is not what the feminine necessarily is. But yeah, I had experienced something similar myself, and it wasn't nearly as extreme, but it occurred to me that if the founder of the King, Warrior, Magician, Lover system of archetypes, it's a bit weird to call it a founder, the discoverer, the one who mapped it out, whatever, and me, myself, the guy who had been running Reclaiming the Throne and leading men's initiation for like almost a decade, I've been studying this, we were attracted into relationships that were that fucking chaotic and dark. What had this occult knowledge really done for us? What had knowing about the archetypes done for our capacity to thrive? Was it perhaps the case, and this is what I was referring to in one of my Facebook posts, that we can't really necessarily blame the women? Because maybe it was the case that there are some of us that are so curious and that just cannot keep our hands from the prize, or we cannot resist opening Pandora's box, or we cannot resist clicking the button that says do not click. Because that's adventure. It's out of my control. What kind of challenge will I have to face if I do that? There's something boyish, again, that wants to have that challenge. Is it not true? Is it not true what I'm saying? That the anticipation of a challenge or a danger or a threat actually feels stimulating on some level inside of you. I think it's true. And so maybe that's what happened. I was thinking to myself, maybe I just was so intent on turning every stone inside of the psyche of this traumatized poor woman that I'd chosen as my life partner at the time, so that she was not able to actually deal with how much of her psychic material I was revealing. I think there's something to that. I think there's something to that. 2023. All of a sudden, we have a shift of energy. We have a shift of energy on this slide. Because I was cured of my fascination with darkness. I was cured of my fascination with demonic forces through that relationship. And I became ready for actually thriving in intimacy. And I met Michelle. And in 2022, I asked her to marry me. And in 2023, we became parents. So that was the end. 26th of May, we became parents. And having had those 2 years of not knowing what the crap I'm going to do with my life, now that I see all of this darkness in the world, I have a feeling that my work on some level is playing with occult forces in a way that I no longer know that is safe to play with, given all of the darkness that I see in the world. My integrity, my truth compass said to me, you have to pull back. You can't do this, at least not right now, because something has changed, not only in the world, but in the unseen realms. I may not get every one of you to follow along with me on this, but what I have felt and what I have since become convinced of is that there is a dramatic buildup in the world over the last couple of years of what I call occult hostile forces. Unseen forces that do not want to do nice things to you, me, or anyone in humanity. Archetypes actually belong in that category because archetypes are imperialistic. If your psyche is shaky, an archetype will be quite happy to possess you and take you over. Hence, you can become a tyrant, a manipulator, an addict, a sadist. That's what happens when you have a broken psyche and you come too close to archetypal forces, they take you over. But archetypes are not the only form of occult hostile forces. I had pulled away to focus on building family with Michelle because I needed a new foundation in my life. And I realized only this year that the new thing that I was looking for in terms of purpose, I had no idea. What is the thing? I feel like I'm here to do more, to give more. I don't know what it is. And then I realized I have to be a dad first. I have to be a dad first, right? So what I was looking for that I didn't understand, because we live in a culture where nobody made that comment to me that maybe you should think that maybe you just want to be a dad. I wanted to be a father so that I could focus on other things than what the crap is my purpose, to get the attention away from myself. And it was only because of my focus on building a family with Michelle and becoming parents that I actually now have connected with this new body of work with the 5D man. So now we're going to transition to that. I'm going to really quickly, this is going to be brief and quite surface. I'm going to take you through some of the very, very basic principles of the 5D man work. And then I'm going to take you into how it connects to the archetypes. The most important thing in the 5D man work is that you are aware of your true north for your life, but also for this quarter. Sometimes you don't know what your true north is, but then you work to find your true north. So there is a principle in this work that if you don't know where you're going, you don't know how to calibrate your journey. When you have a map and a compass, you need to know where you're going on that map. Otherwise, you will wander around aimlessly and get lost and probably die. Be eaten by a wolf or a bear, fall down some sort of hole in the ground, or slip down a rock face or whatever. You don't know where you're going. You don't know where you're going, and you need that for your life. But the reason we work on that within a quarter is because a quarter, you will find that a lot of people in men's work, whether they are Garrett White in Wake of Warrior, or as what Ryan Meckler, I think his name is in, what are they called? I think Father Michael you're in his work, Iron Council, something like that, or Order of Man, they're called. I think the Manifesto guys do this. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, 3 months is a perfect unit of time to get some shit done. And for those of you who are already in the 5D man work, there are several of you who are here. Some of this will be new because this is work in progress. So if I'm sharing something that we haven't been working on inside of the guild yet, we will. So second, you have to commit to your true north. You have to pursue your true north by permeating your 4 core life dimensions with commitment. And for this, every quarter, we create a battle plan. I will tell you more about these 4 core life dimensions and the battle plan in a moment. Actually, I also want to mention I don't teach discipline. I teach commitment. They're different. They're different. I'm not going to go deeply into that, but I teach commitment and not discipline. You have to calibrate. Every day, read your compass to see if you are on track for your true north. After all, you're on a journey of a lifetime or of a quarter. You need to know if you are on the right path. For this, I have developed a whole arsenal of weapons or tools that I call the armory that the men use every day. In the morning, they use a morning compass. In the evening, they use an evening compass to indicate or to assess if they are on track with their true north. And then you have to iterate. You have to keep repeating the moves over and over until either you have arrived or you have been calibrated by God. God comes along and says, now I have different plans for you, my friend. And then you have to kneel and surrender. Here we go. This may look a bit overwhelming on first glance. I'm going to take you through them one by one. This is the model of the 5D man lifestyle. 4 core dimensions in the corners, and then the 5th dimension of commitment at the center. You will notice that I have used, I believe it's called alliteration in English. So the first dimension of the 5D man lifestyle is clarity. If you lack clarity, instead, you have confusion. The second dimension is courage. If you lack courage, what you have is cowardice. The third is connection. If you lack connection, you have conflict. Isolation, as far as I am concerned, it's a form of conflict. Dimension 4, creation. If you don't have creation, you have consumption. These are the 4 core life dimensions that we work on inside of the 5D man lifestyle. The 5th is commitment. It is the one that has to permeate the 4 core life dimensions. And if you do not have commitment, what you have is complacency. You don't care. Let's go through them one by one. Dimension 1, clarity. Do you remember Kings of the North, the magician archetype? Do you remember that I struggled to create clear and articulated exercises in the ultimate intro to masculine archetypes? It's because an archetype puts you into a context of myth, of fairy tales, of characters. It is not suited for practical instructions. I have studied this for now 14 years. And this is my conclusion. They're not suited for practical, day-to-day moves in the arena of life. You will see here in the columns on the left and the right, metrics are what we measure. Methods are the means by which we move from confusion to clarity. Again, some of these metrics and methods that are listed on these slides are a little bit different than the ones that are currently inside of the 5D man work, because we will be calibrating this model before Q4. Am I clear? As I explain clarity, you see, the magician is so related to memory, wisdom, knowledge, peace, concentration, congruence. It is the mental field. It is learning to see interconnection, see knowledge and wisdom. It is the magician archetype. Second, courage is the warrior. Metrics on the left, methods on the right. What I love is being in connection with men who are in my work to ensure that these words, that these metrics, for instance, are the exact right ones. Okay? So don't get super hung up on the exact ones, because they may change. But what is a warrior without courage? Like, I can talk all day long about Braveheart and Aragorn is one. He's obviously a warrior. Boromir, or like the shadow warrior, or I can talk about wars and conquest and Sun Tzu and whatever. But what I'm gonna do when I wake up in the morning? What am I gonna do when I'm waking up in the morning? I'm gonna focus on eating well. I'm gonna focus on building strength, stamina, vitality. I'm gonna regulate my nervous system so I don't freak out in the face of danger. I'm going to ensure that I have great sleep, because a warrior needs rest. I need a good constitution. I need to have boundaries, and I even need to know how to defend myself. This idea of defending myself often is completely left out of men's work, as if it's not relevant, and that men's work is supposed to be crying on the floor about what happened when you were little. I think men's work needs to be more than that, and especially in times such as these. Absolutely, conformity is a form of courage, Dan. Methods: train, treat, exercise, recover. You know, I think it's clear. These cards, by the way, were from the Ultimate Intro to Masculine Archetypes. I always hated this one, but funny that I just couldn't find any good pictures on all of the internet, all of the web, of a lover archetype. It was very fascinating. Like this somewhat sleazy looking character was what I ended up with. So maybe now with Midjourney and AI, I could recreate them. But hey, I'm probably not going to be doing that. Anyway, the lover archetype is connection. It's about your relationships, metrics, sex life, intimate life, connection with children, community, contribution, and clan. Yeah, the opposite of connection, conflict. So you can measure as you see this. Just notice, where on this up-down pyramid are you? Are you closer to the top, or are you closer to the bottom? Creation, king archetype. Arguable, but that's how I think about it. Creation of your kingdom, creation of your legacy, creation of your business, leadership, whatever. Leadership actually needs to be in here. This is where, yeah, I'm excited to keep building this out. I use obviously all of this every day. I use the tools of the Armory. I love it. I need to be my own best customer, and actually teasing out the particular details and nuances of a business is something that I've had fun with. So creation, as you may understand, inside of the 5D man work does have a connotation of entrepreneurial activity or business. This is not the case for everyone. Some men are career men, but I'd like to think that even if you are in a career or even if you're a stay-at-home dad, there will be a way to translate this. Though I actually hold it as an ideal to be self-employed or run a business. And the reason I do that is because it enables a greater level of sovereignty. It can be a pain in the ass at times. It really can. But at the same time, it's also a total blessing when you do it right. I don't know that I've had a particular business talent in my life. My main talent has been in building systems and facilitating deep transformation. But after creating this, my business talent is certainly increasing. Yeah, Father Michael, that's not how I have chosen to see it. The way that I map it is like there's a generativity of the king that builds kingdoms, that builds structures, that leads people around. But the point is that it's not really that important what these 4 core dimensions relate to in the archetypal realm, because it's not really the game I'm committed to anymore. Okay, so we can, and actually that little disagreement, I think, perfectly encapsulates why the archetypes can get so confusing. I've been in conversations about, oh no, the warrior is the fire element. That was what I believed. And then they said, oh no, the warrior is the earth element. And then we're going to build all of these structures based on archetypes and elemental theory. And I'm like, how does that help me? like actually, how does that help me? This is a mental exercise more than anything. Let's get practical, right? Finally, it's dimension 5. This is the vertical dimension. I wish that I had put a pyramid here so that you could see the 4 core dimensions on the facets, that you could see that commitment is the axis at the center. In a way, you can see that with the symbols. Now, those 2 pictures indicate that I consider, in this body of work anyway, commitment is of God, or you're committed to God. You are committed to living out God's purpose for you in this lifetime. You're leaning into that actively by permeating clarity, courage, connection, and creation with commitment. When you don't do that and you become complacent, gradually that weird looking black dude takes you and makes you anxious, depressed, all kinds of things. Let me show you a different way of talking about that. The membership that I run, I call it a guild. It's called the Ground and Glory Guild. When I talk about ground, I talk about being humbled by God, by life. It is the act of being on your knees in surrender, allowing your ego to fall apart so that some deeper thing can enter you and have you rise as a more whole and integrated man. A lot of men pursue glory prematurely because, quite frankly, they're kind of a mess. And so their pursuit of glory becomes compensatory. They try to look good, but there is no genuine service present because their service is greedy. Their service wants to take. It wants to take validation. It wants to take love. It wants to take, well, money, I suppose. We all need money, but it's not supposed to be the reason we do things. It is the means by which we facilitate fair exchange. So glory is the direction up, as I just showed you in all of these other models. But shall we say that conflict isn't to connection what ground is to glory? No, I don't see it that way. Because the ground isn't negative. The ground is necessary. You need to be grounded. And so instead, this idea that there's a grave, you're not humble, but you're actively engaged in your own destruction. That's a different thing entirely. We all need the ground. We need to build our lives on the ground. Otherwise, a gust of wind will tear it all apart. And this is one of the reasons why I'm moving away from archetypes. I'm not abandoning them completely. I'm still going to talk about it because as an analytical map, it is almost unparalleled. It is incredible. But it's so easy when you're swimming in the waters of the unconscious to dig yourself deeper and deeper down into your own grave. To actually not only use your desire for transformation in an ignorant way, but to actually summon forces that you have no ability to be with. Chthonic forces, underworld forces that will start consuming you. So, when you look at that, see creation here, and then consumption down here. Consumption is your grave. The more you consume, the more you will dig your own grave. But in the middle here, between the two, sometimes you need to go down there because you're floating too high. You don't have a sense of connection. You have become grandiose. That is what the ground is. Build the house of your future success on the ground. Don't construct it perilously on the tip of a branch high in a tree. Build it on the ground. And that is more or less it. I'm going to yeah. So in these metrics within each of the core life dimensions, there are no metrics inside of commitment. Commitment is the means by which you increase your metrics in the other four. The vision, I'm in a conversation with Logan. Logan is here today. If this +8 goal is too much, maybe we get stretched a little bit too thin. This is up for revision. But the whole idea is that you start a quarter with a life mapping workshop. It's 3 hours long. And you declare the commitment for the upcoming quarter. You establish your true north for the upcoming quarter, and then you commit to it. And then the men who are inside of the guild, they will have access to all of the armory to bring more fire into the process. But it's also possible to be part of this particular workshop without being a member of the guild. I have made that possible now. So I think last quarter I had a +5, and It wasn't quite +8, but I can assure you I was pretty happy. +5 was pretty good. It's a lot better than 0, and is a lot better than -5. You know, there's something so satisfying about being in expansion. So these are links. I'm going to close these slides soon and look at some of the chat. This first link is to our life mapping workshop inside of the guild. We do that on the upcoming Sunday. It costs $33 to participate as a non-member. You can also join the guild. That's fine. There's no link to that here. The second link you will find here. It doesn't work yet. I didn't have time, but that link I will fix that tomorrow. And then I actually put a lot of love into this, and I hope you will like it. It's a survey where you will have an opportunity. It's a whole new survey for those of you who have done it previously. I've used completely different software and made it beautiful and way more pro. You will be able to assess where you are at in your work of becoming a 5D man, which is a man who's committed to clarity, courage, connection, and creation. And I will send it out to you by email. I'm sorry that I didn't manage to actually complete it today, but that's just the truth of it. So you're very welcome to take down these links. I would love to see you on Sunday. It's going to be 3 hours. We're going to start at the same time as we did today. And it's going to be powerful. You're going to have massive clarity. Clarity is the name of the game when it comes to these, because you're going to have your true north. So these next 3 months are going to be, for you, if you choose to be part of it, be lived inside of this model that you just saw. And the second, as I said, it's a way for you to assess how you are doing in relationship to the model that I have given you. And I think you will love it. It will give you a lot of clarity. So, stop slide presentation. That should get me up big. We are exactly at 8 o'clock. Let's see here. I hear from Robert that neither link is working for me right now. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can fix that. Okay, this could be a caching issue on my server that I will be able to fix immediately after this. So the moment that I am done with this webinar, just take down these 2 links. If you haven't already, I can put them in the chat. And yeah, some technical issues are always to be expected, but here we go. Just putting that there. I put them both there. Yeah, Tony also just shared his link. Thank you for that, Tony. Yeah, you know, guys, I'm really grateful to you. I like being back in the game. It's fun. And you have shared a lot of goodies here. I'm going to see the introduction of God is interesting, almost like a pinnacle archetype. Yes, I agree. A mature masculinity is always self-serving. That's for sure. Father Michael. Of the diamond, the pyramid above the ground is the path of the downward pyramid is the shadow man. Yeah. It is good to hear you talk about the dark thoughting forces. There is too much sweetness and light in some parts of men's work. Absolutely. You are forever divinely inspired. Is this Dan Silverberg? I appreciate that comment. And George, I do think there is direct relationship between the 4 archetypes, something like king, provider, plus warrior, protector, magician, entertainer, lover. Okay, yeah, cool. So I'm going to end it there unless there is 1 or 2 vital questions at the end. I can stay for 1 more minute. You feel free to ask me a question. Thank you, Dan. Good to see you. And I assure you guys, I will be sending out an email to you because maybe you just won't be able to write down those links. Maybe, you need to think about it or whatever, but I would love to see you on Sunday. It's going to be great. And the survey, I really think, is going to provide you a lot of clarity. When is our second child due? And probably in a couple of years, I would believe. Then we're going to let Michelle's body recover from delivering this first one. But we would love a second child. I I I love being a dad. I absolutely friggin' love it. If you wonder, if you're one of the guys that's like wonder, oh, I'm gonna lose my freedom, uh, it's better in every way. Every way. Oh, great. Great to see you here, Avin. You're welcome, Simon, Tony. Yeah, have a good one. You're welcome. You're welcome, guys. Okay. Thank you for coming. It's been a pleasure. Bless you all. And I hope to see some of you on Sunday. And you will be sure to receive an email from me soon. Bye bye.